Hello. It is another gray and blustery day outside. I've clocked out for the day and I'm just kind of hanging out. So I figured that maybe I could come at you with a wrap up for what I happened to read last month. Um, as it is April already, hard to believe. Um, so I think that's what I could do right now. Um, you possibly have noticed that the bookcase has changed. Um, Yeah, I know. I just barely redid it and then I redid it again because that's just keeping me busy lately. Um, so I have what I read for last month. I have keeping track of everything uh, for this year. I also kept track of everything for last year. Um, so at this point, I have read 15 books for the year, which I think is ahead of where I'm supposed to be. And this month alone, I read 5 books. I probably would have read more, but this whole like situation, rather than making me think, oh yeah, I have more free time to read, has left me either filming these videos or playing Animal Crossing or binging NCIS because I'm just trying to not think about anything. That's like the most mindless things that I can do. Um, except for filming because I need to actually think about stuff. But anyway, on to what I have read so far this month. I'm hoping maybe I can get more done as far as reading goes for next month. So let's get started. So the first book that I read in March was William Shakespeare's Get Thee Back to the Future. This is by Ian Dozier. He is the one who wrote the Shakespearean versions of the Star Wars books. And one of my friend's moms got me this for Christmas because she knows I'm a huge Back to the Future nerd. So this was a delightful read. It took me a little while to get through it just because, I mean, I do know the movie by heart, but it was it took a little while to get through it just because it is written in Shakespearean English. So, you know, it was a bit much, but it was still pretty enjoyable, really funny. Let me see if I can find my favorite line that was in here. Let's see. Okay, my favorite is so it's the part of the movie where Marty and Doc are getting ready for Doc's experiment. He's kind of put Einstein into the DeLorean and he's telling Marty, you know, everything about what's going on and what he says about his calculations being correct. And so this is what Doc says. If every calculation is correct, when this, my baby, source of all my hopes, doth hit upon the speed of 88 in miles per hour, then, Marty, verily, thine eyes shalt witness shit most serious. I don't know, it got me, and I've already been trying to figure out how to work, you know, verily, thine eyes shalt witness shit most serious into daily in conversation. I've already managed to use it once in a conversation since I read this, so try to work up more of that because that's a pretty great line. But yeah, this was a delight. If you are a fan of Shakespeare or you're a fan of Back to the Future, you probably will enjoy this. It's a fun little read, and it is nice because of how the soliloquies are done. You get more insight into certain characters and their mindset, which is also really nice. Um, so that is that. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I do have a bunch of books that are on my immediate TBR, like the ones I'm kind of in the middle of in different places. But this happened, like right after I finished reading this. So instead, I kind of reached for one of my comfort reads. Um, and it actually is a book that I haven't reached for before as far as comfort reads go. I do have a list of those, which I've been thinking about maybe making a separate video about, like, books that I find comforting at times that maybe other people would find comforting. Um, Instead, I ended up reaching for The Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder. This is something that I haven't really grabbed for before, really. I read it a couple of times. I saw the play put on when I was in high school, which was a lot of fun. And I also ended up studying this for a class in college. And it is really funny. There are a lot of funny parts in it. There's a lot of observations about the world, and there's also a lot of references to um, uh, classic literature, ancient literature, the Bible, a lot of different things going on in here. But at the time, I think I find it most comforting because I believe this was written in the middle of World War II. And a lot of people thought that the world was potentially coming to an end. Um, so this was kind of like a very comforting kind of message that he was trying to put out there about, we've survived worse things. Every act in this play kind of deals with a different natural disaster or crazy time in history when human beings probably thought the world was coming to an end, and it didn't. We picked up and we survived and we carried on. So this was kind of exactly what I needed to read anyway. Um, so that was uh, that was exactly what I needed at the time when I read this like a week or two ago. So yeah, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Also, it is excellent if you see it in person. Um, at some point, it's very funny. Let's see. Next up is actually two books that I read in the same day, or almost the same day, I think. They are favorites from childhood, and they are Stinker from Space by Pamela F. Service and Stinker's Return. And I read these in elementary school. I checked this out from my library um, multiple times, like a lot. I also checked this out a couple of times as well. This is really enjoyable, but honestly, it doesn't hold a candle to the original. I ended up finding a copy at some point when I was in like junior high, and I lost it. And I was very happy to find these two on like either Amazon or Book Outlet like a few months ago. Especially because this one, I was told back when I first bought a copy of this that this was out of print. So pretty exciting overall for these. But yeah, so this is the story of an alien who is rushing home um, with intel about enemy forces going to attack his home planet. He ends up getting chased and hit. He has to crash land into another star system and ends up on Earth. He is damaged in the crash, but his particular race are able to transfer their consciousness into other bodies at times when their lives are in danger. So he does this, and he actually ends up putting his consciousness into a skunk. Um, and he is also able to telepathically communicate with people, and he uses this to gain friendship and help up to young kids who are also kind of space obsessed, but in different ways. Um, it is, as you can tell, pretty short, but it's really cute. And as far as sequels go, this is also really good. Um, but yeah, so this was like a big time favorite of mine as a kid, and sometimes when I'm like upset with the world or whatever, I end up reaching for childhood books as well. So I ended up rereading these, enjoyed myself a hell of a lot. It was wonderful revisiting these again, and while this one I think at least isn't as great as this one, I still really enjoyed this a lot more than I think I had the first couple of times I read it when I was much younger. So these were both five. Did I do this 5 stars? No, this was 5 stars and this was 4 stars. Um, that was that, and the last book I finished on the 31st exactly, was Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. This is the third book in Discworld chronologically, and the first book in the Witches series, which is like an offshoot series within his series of. He has like different series that coincide with different characters, and this is one of them. This is about a eighth son of an eighth son who is supposed to be a wizard, but surprise, it's a daughter. But she is bequeathed through means of an accident to be a wizard, and in Discworld, that is unheard of. Female wielders of magic are witches, and male wielders of magic are wizards. Wizards kind of take all of the magic in and use it for their will and sometimes for the most ridiculous things, and witches don't really do that. They learn practical things, herbal remedies and different things. They can use magic, but more of witching is about knowing when not to use magic, which is most of the time. So this is the story of Esk, who is this accidental female wizard, and her journey to basically, become a wizard. It was funny, charming, kind of ridiculous at times. I really enjoyed the growth of a couple of the characters within here, especially one of the characters was very glad and very happy to see, because she's like an integral part of Tiffany Aching series that I love. Um, so this was really fun, and yeah, that was my last book that I read in March. Also, if you haven't read Discworld or anything, I would suggest that you do, because Terry Pratchett is basically the Douglas Adams of fantasy. Um, he's hilarious, ridiculous. His social observances are really funny and on point, and they're throughout this series. It's really good. So yeah, so that was all that I read in March. Um, in between doing basically whatever. Um, so that was what I read. I will probably come up with the most immediate TBR for the month of April. Um, and yeah, hopefully get on with some more reading. Oh wait, I didn't tell you. This was 4 stars. Sorry, 4 stars. But yeah, so that was that, and thanks for watching.